Okay, so get this. We're going deep on one of those rivalries, the ones that are legendary, like in sports history,
Hmm.
LA Lakers and the Boston Celtics, but like specifically the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
We've got excerpts here from, it's called Lakers versus Celtics, the 1980s NBA Finals rivalry.
Oh.
And, the researchers, they really went all out. They got like all the stats from the games, the cultural impact,
Yeah.
even like personal stories, quotes from the players. Like it's pretty amazing.
You can really get like a feel for what it was like to be there,
Yeah.
like right there on the court.
Yeah, totally.
And it was intense, let me tell you. You've got the Lakers. It was their Showtime era, right?
Yeah.
Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh, yeah.
Just like dazzling everybody, so much speed and finesse.
Unstoppable.
And then you've got the Celtics, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish. They were all about that grit, like teamwork, that blue-collar work ethic.
Yeah.
It wasn't just basketball. It was like a whole culture war happening out there.
Yeah. I can only imagine. So these two teams, they met in the finals 3 times in the 80s.
That's right.
1984, 85, and 87.
Yep.
But before the 80s, the Celtics had never lost to the Lakers in the finals, ever.
Never.
8 wins, 0 losses.
Talk about pressure.
Oh, man.
Imagine being a Lakers fan, going up against this team that just seems unbeatable.
I can't even imagine.
So that 1984 finals, man, even though the Celtics won, it was like this turning point. I mean, 7 games. Brutal.
Really?
Physical. So physical. And, that first game, they called it the Memorial Day Massacre. Celtics just destroyed them. 34 points.
Ooh.
Set the tone for the whole series.
Jeez, yeah, I bet that was demoralizing.
Totally.
But, I was reading about Game 4, and there was this foul, Kevin McHale clotheslining Kurt Rambis.
Oh, yeah.
That was controversial, right? Some people said it was a dirty play. Some said, nah, it's just, hard-nosed basketball.
It was a different time back then, that's for sure. The game was much more physical. I think McHale's play was right on the edge. Sparked this huge debate, like, what's acceptable on the court?
Yeah.
It's interesting, how that one play just, like, captured all that emotion of the rivalry.
Right. It seems like today's game is so much more, like, regulated,
Definitely, yeah.
Oh, hey, before we move on to 85, I just remembered this little thing about the 84 finals.
Okay.
It was the last one that they played with that format, the 2-2-1-1-1.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
Red Auerbach, the Celtics coach, the legendary Red Auerbach.
Yeah.
Famously complained about, all the traveling. He said it was a disadvantage
Wow.
going back and forth between cities. So they switched it the next year
Oh, wow.
to the 2-3-2 format.
Yeah.
So fewer trips. Whether it made a difference, like strategically, who knows?
Interesting.
But, it shows you how much influence Auerbach had.
Yeah, he was a legend. Okay, so 1985, and the Lakers, finally, they beat the Celtics.
It had to feel huge for the Lakers and their fans after all those years,
Yeah, they had been waiting for that for so long.
There was a major turning point in the rivalry. And they didn't just win. They won convincingly.
Really?
6 games. And to really, twist the knife, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 38 years old,
Wow.
wins the finals MVP.
That's incredible. I think I remember, didn't Auerbach, before the series, say something about Kareem, like he's past his prime or something?
He did.
Oh, man.
Classic Auerbach,
Yeah.
psychological warfare.
Right.
But this time it backfired because Kareem used those comments to fuel him.
Yeah.
And he just dominated the series, silenced all the doubters.
It's amazing.
And remember, he was going up against Robert Parrish, who was, a defensive monster.
Oh, yeah.
And Kareem still dominated.
So that was a statement, right? Not just about Kareem's skill, but his, mental toughness, too.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I wonder how the Celtics felt,
Yeah.
losing to their rivals after all those years.
Had to be rough.
It definitely bruised their ego.
Yeah.
But, it also shows how much the Lakers had changed. They weren't just, a flashy team anymore. They were a winning team.
Right.
And remember, before that, they destroyed the Denver Nuggets, demolished them. 44 points in the Western Conference Finals.
Oh, wow.
That wasn't luck,
No.
They were a force.
Okay, so the Lakers proved their point in 85, and then they won again in 87.
Back to back.
It seems like the balance of power just shifted so quickly.
Yeah. The 1987 Finals really solidified the Lakers dynasty. Magic Johnson, he was incredible.
Oh, yeah.
That junior skyhook shot he made to win Game 4.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Classic.
But, Could you explain that shot for those of us who aren't like super familiar with all the technical aspects of basketball?
Sure, sure. So picture this.
Okay.
It's the final seconds of Game 4. The score is tied. Lakers have the ball. Magic drives to the basket,
Uh-huh.
but he's surrounded by Celtics defenders.
Oh, man.
So instead of forcing a shot or passing, he just improvises.
Mm.
He takes this high-arching, almost like underhanded shot that's the junior skyhook,
Right?
and it goes in.
Wow.
It was like this perfect blend of skill, awareness, and audacity.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the shot. It was the timing, the pressure.
Yeah.
It was against the Celtics.
Yeah.
It was a defining moment, not just in the rivalry, but for Magic Johnson's career.
That's pretty cool.
But, we should also remember the Celtics were dealing with a lot of injuries that series.
Oh,
Walton, Wedman, even McHale, they were all playing hurt.
I see.
So even though they lost, they pushed the Lakers to 6 games.
Yeah.
So that says a lot about their resilience.
He does.
They weren't going down without a fight, and that's what made this rivalry so great.
It's crazy how, like, this whole rivalry went way beyond the game itself.
Oh, yeah.
It was East Coast versus West Coast,
Totally.
old school versus new school.
Right.
It was like a whole, like, microcosm of America in the 80s.
Uh-huh. The Celtics,
Right.
They had that blue-collar work ethic,
Yeah.
that team-first mentality.
Uh-huh.
They were like the Reagan-era ideal, right?
Yeah.
Hard work, grit, no nonsense.
Totally.
And then you've got the Lakers. They were all about like the flash, the individual talent,
Yeah.
Hollywood glamour.
Right.
And that contrast, it wasn't just on the court,
Yeah.
It was in the cities they represented, the fans, even how the media covered them.
It makes you wonder if, like, people picked sides based on, like, their own values,
Yeah.
Almost like choosing, like, a political party.
I think so, yeah. Like sports can be a reflection of our culture and society.
Mm-hmm.
And this rivalry, it definitely tapped into something deeper, something beyond basketball.
Uh-huh.
It was about identity,
Yeah.
what people wanted to be. And yeah, maybe even like some rivalry between the coasts.
Totally. And speaking of coasts, this rivalry, it wasn't just America.
You went global.
Yeah, Magic and Bird, they became international icons.
I mean, think about it. This was before the internet, before social media,
Mhm.
They were broadcast all over the world, showing a whole new generation what the NBA was all about.
Mm-hmm.
It was a time when basketball was really starting to grow internationally.
Right.
And this rivalry with, these huge personalities, these amazing storylines,
Yeah.
it played a big part in that.
Okay, so we've got these epic games, we've got these larger-than-life personalities,
Yeah.
we've got this, like, cultural impact that went global.
Mhm.
What do you think is, like, the one thing that our listeners should, like, remember from this deep dive, this Lakers-Celtics rivalry?
For me, it's how powerful a rivalry can be,
Yeah.
When it's healthy, when there's respect, competition can bring out the best in everyone.
Mm-hmm.
The Lakers and the Celtics, they pushed each other to be better,
Yeah.
Not just as players, but as teams. They raised the bar for everyone.
And they get it, like, while still respecting each other,
Right.
There's that famous quote where Magic Johnson said he wouldn't be the player he was without Larry Bird and vice versa.
They understood,
Yeah.
Their rivalry wasn't just about beating the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
It was about pushing the limits, seeing what was possible.
Yeah.
And that respect they had for each other, that's something we can all learn from no matter what we're doing.
Right.
It's about finding that balance,
Mm-hmm.
Fierce competition, but also genuine admiration for your opponent.
So we've been talking big picture so far, the finals, cultural impact, global stage.
Uh-huh.
But what about the players themselves?
Right.
I mean, we're talking about some of the biggest names in basketball.
We are
Magic, Bird, Kareem, McHale.
icons.
These weren't just athletes, they were icons.
Their stories, their personalities, they just add, another layer to this whole rivalry.
Right.
Let's start with, like, the matchup that defined the era.
Okay.
Magic versus Bird.
That's the one, right.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about that one.
Yeah. The flashy point guard
Yeah.
against the, like, stoic sharpshooter.
Yeah.
It's almost like their styles were, like, symbolic of the whole Lakers-Celtics dynamic,
Yeah, totally.
Magic with those no-look passes, that smile.
Yeah.
He was the Showtime Lakers.
Uh-huh.
Creativity, improvisation, making the impossible look easy.
Yeah.
And then you've got Larry Bird, the quiet assassin,
Yeah.
from Fresh Lick, Indiana.
I can just picture him.
Fundamentals, hard work, and that look he gave you after he hit a three-pointer right in your face.
Ice cold.
Ice cold.
But, like, their rivalry, it goes back even further than the NBA, right?
It does.
Didn't they play each other in college?
1979 NCAA championship game.
Wow.
Magic's Michigan State Spartans against Bird's Indiana State Sycamores.
Okay.
Classic David versus Goliath. Right?
Yeah.
And it really set the stage for everything that came later in the NBA.
It was like destiny, right?
And it was meant to be.
And it wasn't just about their individual skills. They were both amazing leaders. They took their teams to another level.
They got that.
They understood, like, basketball is a team sport.
Uh-huh.
So their rivalry made the other players around them better too, you know?
Absolutely. They weren't just playing for themselves. They were playing for their teammates, for their cities, for a legacy.
All right, right.
They were building something bigger than themselves. But let's not forget Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh, yeah.
He was already a legend before the 80s even started, but he just kept dominating. His skyhook, forget about it.
Unstoppable.
Nobody could block it. I've heard people say it was like a scientific equation, perfectly calculated.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is he was in his mid-30s when this rivalry really heated up.
Wow.
Most players are thinking about retiring at that point, but he was still winning championships.
That's incredible.
His longevity is amazing.
Yeah.
Winning finals MVP at 38, that's almost unheard of. And remember, he was dealing with health problems too.
Really?
I read that he played through like really bad migraines during the 85 finals.
Oh, man.
Talk about mental toughness.
That's next level.
It is. And it's easy to get caught up in the stats, the highlights, but, you know, sometimes we forget, like, the human element behind it all.
Yeah, for sure.
These were real people going through real struggles, and they achieved incredible things. What about the Celtics?
Yeah.
Who else stood out besides Bird?
Well, you got to talk about Kevin McHale, right?
Oh, yeah.
He was, like, one of the most versatile forwards in NBO history.
Absolutely.
He could score from anywhere, play defense, and, you know, we talked about the Kurt Rambis thing.
Oh, yeah, the clothesline.
He wasn't afraid to get physical.
That's still debated today.
Yeah.
Dirty play or just part of the game back then.
What do you think?
It was a different era, you know.
Yeah.
More physical, for sure. But I think what's interesting is how that play, it kind of became a symbol, you know, of McHale's intensity, the Celtics' grit. It was like they were saying, we're not backing down, we're here to win, and we're not afraid to get tough.
Yeah, like, that play was the whole Celtics persona.
Right.
But, you know, McHale, he was just one part of the team.
Right.
They had Robert Parrish, the chief, down low.
Ah, Robert Parrish.
Yeah.
The anchor of that Celtics defense.
Yeah.
He was just always there, you know, solid amidst all the craziness. He wasn't flashy like Bird or McHale, but he was crucial to their success.
Right.
Quiet leader, just did his job, never complained. He was the Celtics' team-first mentality.
It's amazing how those personalities, like, come through even after all these years.
They do.
Magic's charisma, Bird's intensity, Kareem's, like, dominance, McHale's grit, Parrish's leadership. It's like a movie.
It really is. And when you put them all together on different teams fighting for championships, it's no wonder this rivalry blew up like it did. It was more than just basketball. It was personalities, styles, ideas clashing.
Yeah.
And that's what made it so interesting.
You said, like, ideas.
Yeah.
We talked about East Coast versus West Coast, old school versus new school.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, like, how did this rivalry fit into the politics of the 80s?
Interesting question.
It was the Reagan era, right?
It was. Big changes, big personalities.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how sports can kind of be a mirror for what's happening in society. In the 80s, America was changing a lot, economically, politically, culturally.
Right.
And the Lakers-Celtics rivalry kind of captured all that tension.
Yeah.
You had Celtics, they represented this like traditional blue-collar America, you know.
Yeah.
Hard work, grit, teamwork, those were their values.
And then the Lakers, with that Hollywood flair, that emphasis on individual talent and, like, entertainment, they were like a challenge to that, right?
Exactly.
Like a symbol of the times changing.
They represented something more individualistic, expressive, even flamboyant. And that resonated with a younger generation, a generation that was kind of pushing back against, you know, the way things were.
Right.
And the media, they picked up on that. They presented the rivalry as this clash of cultures, old versus new.
Uh-huh.
And I think that resonated with people. It gave them a side to choose.
It's wild how something as simple as a basketball game can be about so much more.
It is.
cultural tensions, political stuff.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it was still about the game itself.
Well, of course.
The skill, the athleticism, the competition. And these players, they were some of the best ever.
No question.
They pushed the boundaries of the sport. They entertained millions of people all over the world. And they left a legacy, that still inspires people today.
Absolutely.
And what's amazing is, even though it was this fierce rivalry, they still respected each other.
They did.
They recognized each other's greatness, even while they were out there battling.
That's what makes it special.
It really does. And it makes you think, what if they didn't have that respect?
Right.
Would it have been as interesting? Would it have had the same impact?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think, the rivalry was so captivating because it had that balance.
Yeah.
The fierce competition, the desire to win, but also that underlying respect.
Right.
That recognition of each other's talent.
Yeah.
It was the perfect storm, really.
Yeah. I'm curious, are there, any specific moments or stories that stand out to you, things that really capture what this rivalry was all about?
Well, there's that story about Magic Johnson calling Larry Bird on Christmas Day, 1984.
Oh, yeah.
To wish him happy holidays.
Really?
Yeah. They were rivals, but they were also friends, at least off the court. It shows that even with all that competition, they still had that human connection.
That's pretty cool.
And then there's that story about Red Auerbach, the Celtics coach.
Oh, yeah.
He sent a bottle of champagne to the Lakers locker room after they beat the Celtics.
He did.
Yeah. It was a gesture of respect. But you know Auerbach, right?
Oh, yeah.
I bet there was some gamesmanship involved, too.
Totally. Classic Auerbach.
Playing mind games.
Yeah.
It just goes to show this rivalry wasn't just about what happened during the games.
Right.
It was about the personalities, the mind games, all the stuff happening off the court. It was the whole package.
It was like a soap opera, but with incredible athletes.
Yeah, exactly.
And amazing skills.
And you never knew what was going to happen next.
That's what kept people hooked. It's we've just, scratched the surface of this whole thing. It's so layered.
It is.
All these cultural and historical things all mixed together.
Yeah.
But okay, let's zoom in a little bit.
Okay.
Focus on the players.
All right.
What are some of those moments, those stories that really show us who these guys were?
Well, there's that story about Magic calling Larry on Christmas Day, 1984.
No way, really?
Yeah, to wish him happy holidays.
Wow.
I mean, think about it. These guys are rivals. They're fighting for a championship.
Yeah.
But they can still, put that aside and just be human with each other.
It's kind of sweet, actually.
It is. It shows that even with all that competition, they still respected each other.
Yeah, yeah. I read somewhere that Red Auerbach, the Celtics coach, he sent a bottle of champagne to the Lakers locker room after they beat them once.
Oh, yeah, classic.
A gesture of, respect, but knowing Auerbach, I bet there was, a little gamesmanship in there, too.
Oh, totally. He was a master of psychology.
Yeah.
He knew that something like that could really mess with the Lakers.
Right, make them doubt themselves.
Exactly. It reminds us that this rivalry, it wasn't just about the games.
Right.
It was about the personalities, the mind games.
Yeah. It's fascinating how their personalities were kind of mirrored in the teams, The Celtics, teamwork, defense, they were like a machine, well-oiled. And the Lakers, they were more free-flowing, reliant on individual talent.
It's that classic contrast.
Yeah.
The disciplined Celtics versus the free-spirited Lakers. And you saw it everywhere.
Right.
Their playing styles, the coaches, even their uniforms. The Celtics, simple green and white. Tradition, stability.
And the Lakers with their purple and gold.
Hollywood, pushing the limits.
And that clash, that's what made it so interesting.
Exactly. It was like watching two different worlds collide. It makes you wonder, what if things were different?
Yeah, what if?
What if Magic had been on the Celtics and Bird on the Lakers? Would it have been the same?
Who knows?
It's hard to imagine, right?
Yeah.
Those personalities in those different environments, it seems like they were meant to be on opposite sides, It was destiny.
Right.
And that's part of what makes this rivalry so legendary. The talent, the personalities, the timing, it all lined up perfectly.
It feels like we could talk about this forever. There's so much to uncover.
There is.
But we're wrapping up this deep dive, so what's the one thing you want our listener to take away from all of this?
I think it's important to remember that these big rivalries, they go beyond the game.
Right.
They become part of our culture. They reflect what we believe in, what we want. even our struggles. This Lakers-Celtics thing back in the 80s, it was more than just basketball.
Yeah.
It was like a snapshot of America back then. The tension between holding on to the old ways and, embracing the new. The individual versus the group.
It's crazy how much meaning a game can have, right?
It is.
It makes you appreciate how powerful sports are. They bring us together, they divide us, but in the end, they show us who we are.
Whether you were rooting for the Lakers or the Celtics, or even if you weren't a basketball fan at all, you couldn't escape it. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
It had everything. Drama, passion, amazing skills, heartbreak, and in the end, it left this legacy that we're still talking about today.
So that's it for this deep dive.
One of the most famous rivalries in sports history.
We saw the battles on the court, all the drama off the court. We talked about what it meant for culture and the impact it had, that lasts to this day.
This clash between the Lakers and the Celtics. It's a story that still resonates, even after all these years.
And it reminds us that sports can capture our imaginations, and they show us, who we are.